Have you ever trusted someone so deeply, only to find yourself betrayed? What if loyalty, that sacred bond we cherish, is actually a fragile illusion? And what if understanding this illusion is the key to navigating the complex world of human relationships? Loyalty is a concept woven into the fabric of our lives, from the promises we make in friendships to the commitments in business and politics. From a young age, we're taught that loyalty is a virtue, a hallmark of integrity and trustworthiness. But what if this belief blinds us to a harsher reality? Niccolo Machiavelli, the famed 16th century political thinker, challenged this comforting notion. He argued that loyalty is not an unwavering moral compass, but rather a strategic game influenced by self-interest and survival. It is less about steadfast devotion and more about calculated allegiance. Imagine loyalty as a shifting shadow, stretching and contracting depending on circumstances. The business partner who stands by you during profitable times but vanishes when the tides turn. The politician who abandons their ideals as public opinion shifts. Even the closest family ties fraying under pressure. These are not mere betrayals, but reflections of human nature at play. Machiavelli's insight cuts through centuries of idealism, revealing that what we call loyalty is often a performance, a mask that conceals the ongoing calculation of advantage. Understanding this is not cynicism. It is clarity that can free us from disappointment and equip us to build more resilient connections. In the swirling corridors of power during the Renaissance, Niccolo Machiavelli watched the dance of loyalty with a surgeon's eye, detached, precise, and unflinching. Unlike the poets and idealists who romanticized fidelity, Machiavelli saw something raw and unvarnished. Loyalty wasn't a sacred vow. It was a transaction constantly renegotiated. Picture a grand chessboard where each player weighs every move, calculating not just the immediate gain, but the shifting tides of advantage. Loyalty in this game is a piece that can be sacrificed or repositioned as the board changes. Machiavelli famously observed, "It is easy to persuade people of something, but much harder to keep them persuaded." He wasn't condemning human nature for fickleness. He was revealing its blueprint. Human allegiance isn't born from unwavering devotion, but from a delicate balance of interests that fluctuate like the wind. The very supporters who once rallied behind the Medici dynasty shifted their allegiance as power ebbed and flowed, illustrating loyalty's mercurial nature. This isn't mere cynicism. It's a practical lens on survival and influence. Machiavelli's The Prince wasn't a manual for tyrants, but a stark mirror reflecting the real politic of human relations. The veneer of loyalty masks a deeper current. People align themselves with those who serve their interests best, and when the scales tip, alliances dissolve without hesitation. Is it betrayal, or simply nature's way of adapting? This understanding strips away the naive expectation of absolute loyalty and replaces it with a sobering truth in the theater of power and politics. Loyalty is a currency, volatile and conditional. Imagine the grand stage of Renaissance Florence, where power was as fickle as the wind. One day, the mighty Medici family basked in glory, commanding loyalty from nobles and citizens alike. Yet as quickly as their fortunes rose, they fell. And just as swiftly, their supporters shifted allegiance, pledging loyalty to the new republic that replaced them. This wasn't a rare act of betrayal, but the norm and ever-changing dance choreographed by shifting interests rather than steadfast vows. Advisors who whispered loyalty behind closed doors plotted their own ascent. Allies held their faith only until a more promising opportunity appeared. Citizens obeyed, but only as long as obedience served their survival or advantage. Such fluidity was not limited to Florence or Renaissance politics. Across history, similar patterns emerge. Politicians abandoning platforms, generals switching sides, factions realigning as tides turn. These moments reveal the truth beneath the polished speeches and grand promises. Loyalty is transactional, conditional, and often fleeting. Think of loyalty like a river that changes course, with the seasons sometimes flowing strong and deep, other times drying up or veering away altogether. The landscape of power is dynamic, and those who survive best are those who read the currents, adjusting their course as needed. Is this callous? Perhaps. But it is also brutally honest. Loyalty is not a sacred bond etched in stone, but a living, breathing force shaped by context and consequence. At the heart of Machiavelli's teachings lies a profound understanding of human nature. People are inherently driven by self-interest. Loyalty is not a fixed state of mind, but a fluctuating calculation, a delicate balance between what one desires and what one stands to lose. Imagine the human mind as a scale constantly tipping back and forth. On one side, the comfort of loyalty, familiarity, and trust. On the other, the temptation of opportunity, gain, and survival. When the scales tip towards self-preservation, loyalty often bends or breaks. Have you ever wondered why promises made in times of peace so often unravel in moments of crisis? Or why a friend's steadfastness fades when faced with personal hardship? Machiavelli wasn't cynical. He was realistic. He observed that expecting unwavering loyalty in a world ruled by shifting interests was akin to chasing a mirage. Every decision, allegiance, and bond is underpinned by an unspoken question: what's in it for me? This question pulses beneath every handshake, every vow, every pledge. It's the engine driving human behavior, a mechanism that ensures survival and advancement, but complicates our notions of fidelity. In this light, loyalty isn't an absolute virtue, but a strategic choice, a transaction negotiated in the shadows of personal gain and loss. Recognizing this truth doesn't diminish loyalty's value. It reveals its true nature, allowing us to navigate relationships with clearer eyes and steadier hearts. At first glance, loyalty often looks like a shining jewel, a beacon of trust and steadfastness. But beneath this glittering surface lies a complex performance, a social dance where appearances often mask reality. Machiavelli recognized this theatrical aspect of loyalty. People don the cloak of fidelity, not always because of genuine devotion, but because society expects it. Consider the grand masquerade balls of old, where everyone wore masks carefully curated to project an image. Loyalty functions much the same way in human interactions, a carefully rehearsed act. We see pledges and ceremonies, heartfelt vows, and public declarations, yet, behind the scenes, quiet negotiations and hidden doubts simmer. Why do we so desperately cling to this facade? Because it grants us a sense of security in an unpredictable world. It builds a moral framework that encourages cooperation despite competing desires. The illusion of loyalty creates predictability where there is none. Have you ever felt the sting when a trusted ally suddenly turns away? That pain is not just from loss, but from the collapse of the story we told ourselves, a story of dependable loyalty. Our minds crave order, and loyalty, even when fragile or conditional, provides that comforting narrative. Machiavelli's insight reveals a paradox. The very myth of loyalty is essential for society to function. Yet it conceals the fluid, often self-serving nature of human bonds. Understanding this duality is key to navigating relationships without naivety or cynicism. Imagine loyalty not as an unwavering bond, but as a bustling marketplace, vibrant and volatile, where loyalty is the currency traded. Here, every relationship, from friendships to political alliances, is a negotiation shaped by supply and demand, risks and rewards. In this marketplace, loyalty is bought, sold, and bartered. The value of loyalty fluctuates with circumstances, much like stocks responding to market trends. When the benefits outweigh the costs, loyalty flourishes. When the tide turns, it evaporates like mist under the morning sun. Picture a merchant weighing goods on a scale, constantly assessing the worth of loyalty offered and loyalty expected in return. The deals made here are rarely sealed by sacred oaths, but by pragmatic calculations. What advantages can be gained? What risks avoided? Have you noticed how even the strongest alliances crumble when the price of loyalty becomes too high? The friend who vanishes when support demands grow costly. The employee who leaves when better offers arrive. The political faction that switches sides as fortunes shift. These are market dynamics in action. Machiavelli's timeless insight helps us see loyalty for what it is, a transactional asset subject to negotiation, conditionality, and self-interest. Understanding this marketplace mindset arms us with realistic expectations and sharper strategies for managing our bonds, ensuring we are neither blind idealists nor hardened cynics. Loyalty rarely exists as an even exchange. It is often a one-sided contract written by the powerful. Imagine a grand scale where one side holds the weight of expectation, demanding unwavering devotion, while the other side carries the burden of flexibility and compromise. This imbalance is no accident. It's a natural consequence of power dynamics. The prince expects absolute loyalty from his subjects, yet reserves for himself the freedom to shift allegiances as circumstances dictate. Similarly, employers demand steadfast loyalty from employees, but offer little security in return when economic storms arise. Think about relationships in everyday life. The partner with more choices often expects a level of loyalty they themselves might not fully reciprocate. This isn't betrayal. It's the silent rule that governs human connections shaped by inequality. Machiavelli saw this asymmetry not as moral failure, but as a mechanism of control, disguised as virtue. Loyalty becomes a tool wielded by the powerful to bind others while preserving their own liberty. It's less about mutual respect and more about maintaining influence. So, when loyalty falters, it's rarely a simple act of disloyalty, but a reflection of this unequal bargain. Understanding this hidden imbalance helps explain why loyalty is so often conditional and why it can break under pressure. Imagine walking a tightrope stretched high above a chasm. Every step is weighed not only by your skill, but by the fear of falling. Machiavelli understood that in the delicate balance of loyalty, fear often serves as the unseen safety net that keeps bonds intact. Loyalty isn't sustained by love or moral vows alone. It's tethered by the very real consequences of betrayal. The threat of loss, be it reputation, power, wealth, or safety, casts a long shadow that restrains impulsive desertion. Think of ancient political alliances sealed with harsh penalties for treason, or modern contracts with non-compete clauses designed to deter defection. These structures don't eliminate betrayal, but increase its cost, tipping the scales in favor of loyalty. Is it cold or cruel to base relationships on fear? Perhaps. Yet Machiavelli argued that reliable loyalty demands more than affection. It requires a framework where consequences matter deeply. Without such checks, loyalty becomes a fragile promise easily broken. This insight reveals why some rulers choose to be feared rather than loved, not out of tyranny, but because fear instills discipline and caution. Fear ensures that even the most wavering subjects hesitate before breaking their oath. In the end, loyalty is less a matter of pure devotion and more a careful calculation of risks, rewards, and repercussions, a dance choreographed by the interplay of control and consequence. Loyalty is often painted as the crown jewel of human relationships, a symbol of trust, honor, and unwavering commitment. But Machiavelli dares to peel back this glittering facade, revealing a far more complex and uncomfortable truth. Loyalty, he suggests, is rarely pure or unconditional. It's a fragile dance performed under the watchful eyes of self-interest and circumstance. This challenges us to rethink everything we've been taught about human bonds. What if the promises we cherish are less about devotion and more about calculated choices? What if the loyalty we demand from others is something they, too, negotiate silently within themselves? Yet this isn't a cynical dismissal of loyalty, but an invitation to maturity and clarity. By acknowledging its conditional nature, we free ourselves from the agony of unrealistic expectations and disappointment. We learn to value loyalty not as an absolute virtue, but as a dynamic balance, a negotiation shaped by respect, benefit, and consequence. This perspective empowers us. It encourages honesty with ourselves and others. It invites us to build relationships grounded not in illusions, but in realistic understanding. And ultimately, it makes loyalty more meaningful because it is chosen consciously, not blindly assumed. So, as you journey through life, question the loyalty you give and receive. Don't just accept words at face value. Look for the subtle currents beneath. In doing so, you cultivate connections that are not only resilient, but authentic. In today's fast-paced world, loyalty isn't a static virtue. It's a delicate balance, a dynamic dance between aligned interests and inevitable change. Consider the corporate world where employees pledge allegiance, but layoff notices remind us that loyalty often has an expiration date. Or the political arena, where shifting alliances can redefine power overnight. Loyalty thrives when interests converge, but it evaporates the moment the scales tip. It's not merely a moral failing when promises break. It's the reality of living in a world driven by self-interest and consequence. Yet this truth isn't a call to cynicism. Instead, it offers a roadmap, an invitation to see loyalty as a fluid contract, a strategic engagement rather than an unbreakable oath. Understanding this empowers us to build stronger, more resilient relationships. Personal, professional, and political, by focusing on mutual benefit and realistic expectations. Machiavelli's insights free us from the chains of naive idealism, allowing us to navigate human connections with clarity and purpose. So, next time you hear a pledge of unwavering loyalty, look beyond the words. Ask yourself, what interests are truly at play? How might circumstances reshape this bond? Embrace the complexity. Protect your trust wisely. And remember, loyalty is not the absence of self-interest, but the artful balance of it. If this perspective opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who values truth over illusion, and join the conversation in the comments below. Subscribe for more insights that challenge conventional wisdom and empower your journey.